Morning, huddlers. Welcome to our Thursday Spiritual Matters. I am your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando, and I do have a quote for you today. It's not a joke. Sorry, it's not a joke. The biggest decision that you will ever make in your life is to decide whether you live in a friendly or unfriendly universe. Out of that decision, all other decisions come. So welcome again to Spiritual Matters Thursday. All right, we are going to do it today. And I'm going to find your trigger points and push the buttons, because today we are talking about your money as a gateway to spiritual maturity. And some of you are looking at your credit reports and your bank accounts like, I need some God in here. Okay, so let's check in with each other. Stacy, how are you? And what are you grateful for today?
Hi, good morning, Daily Huddle family. How am I today? I am encouraged knowing that I am a man-made flesh in the image and likeness of God, knowing my purpose. That is how I am.
Okay, let's follow that up. I love it, grateful. I love it. Tara, where are you and what time is it?
Good morning. I am right here, right where I'm supposed to be, with great intention. And in that same tone of the time, Dr. Ogando is now, the most important time there is.
I love that. I love that. And Andrea, who are you going to hug today?
Like I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to keep hugging my daughter before she goes to college. So that's what I've been doing, hugging her.
Oh, those moments are so fleeting, and then we remember them with such fondness. I love that. Thank you. Well, I'm excited that all of you are here because you are meeting me at the intersection of my first career out of college as a financial planner / stockbroker / all things financial services and business coach, and then of course also leadership mentor, because a lot of times what ends up happening is that as we move through our adult life, we realize that we have some responsibilities and some commitments that we did not know that we signed up for. Adulthood is the worst hood I have ever been in, I have to tell you. And 0 stars, would not recommend. I don't know if you've ever seen that TikTok meme. I love it. It always makes me laugh. But one of the things that is most significant about our adult journey and our maturity is how we handle money. In fact, Tara says not to be outdone by parenthood. Yes, that's right. Adulthood is gangster. So, the adult journey is riddled with commitments that we didn't know that we signed up for until we get there. So one of them is, oh my gosh, I have to pay bills. I have to work. I have to earn a living. Like, I can't just be my amazing self. What? And so one of the ways that we make sense out of all of this is by studying, for example, financial systems and how they relate to who we are as human beings and the impact that we are here to make in the world. As you may remember, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys in the Daily Huddle family, but because of my background in financial planning and the stock market, etc., I created 2 programs. Actually, this is an interesting story. The program initially was Women, Wealth, and Worthiness. And actually, it's still running. I still have live cohorts every year. And if you're interested in doing Women, Wealth, and Worthiness or finding out more about it, then send me a private message, a DM, and I'll give you some information because it's not for public consumption. And then when I did Women, Wealth, and Worthiness, it was, again, the intersection of understanding, number one, the history of money, and that it wasn't always the way that we've had it. There was a time in human civilization when we lived in community and collaborated in that way, and then became this capitalist thing where individualism was celebrated. But sometimes when you celebrate individualism, then the collective goes by the wayside and becomes, if not a secondary priority, not a priority at all, and in fact, sometimes vilified. And so the ways in which money can become a gateway to your spiritual maturity is by taking a look at our 8th principle, of course. Who can tell me what our 8th principle is? I'm going to tell
yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. We're just going to check assumptions. I'm just going to have some questions for you. Okay. So you're going to want to write some of these things down. The second program that I was telling you about, because when I created Women, Wealth, and Worthiness, the women flocked to that program. They were like, oh my gosh, I want my boyfriend, my son, my husband, my so-and-so to do something like this too. Where's the one for the men? So then we created Men, Money, and Mastery. In fact, if you go to menmoneymastery.com without the and, you'll see that there's a waiting list there for when we're ready to release that program. So here's 4 gateways inside of the money conversation where you can really amplify your spiritual maturity. And inside of those 4 pillars, as it were, I'm going to ask you some questions to check your assumptions. Okay, I'm just going to help you out with that. You don't have to answer them here. Some of you may not want to admit that in public in mixed company, but at least it'll give you some food for thought in how you consider what you do and how you move with money. So the first pillar for building a legacy and building wealth, and of course, then using money as a gateway to your spiritual maturity, is how you make money. Now, just spoiler alert, all 4 pillars have an M in it. You might wonder why. The first one is make money. So I want you to think about the assumptions out of which we move when we make money. Do you have an assumption that there's only so much money to go around in the world and there's only so much that you can make? Do you have an assumption that in order for me to make X amount of money, I have to work X amount of hours? Do you have an assumption that if you were to charge 10 times, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're selling a service, whether you're a speaker, a coach, a healer, a teacher, an accountant, whatever, you provide a service. If you were to charge 10 times what you're charging now for your services, 10 times, just put a 0 at the end of the package deal. Did your butt just pucker? Did you just get personally insulted? Did you just get like, oh, I can't do that. What? That's too much. Just check yourself. Just check yourself. Is there a limit to how much you can charge and how much you can make before you start getting scared and sabotage your progress? Okay. So when you can start answering these questions for yourself, you start to see the places consciously, unconsciously, or otherwise, where you have designed a little box for yourself and you don't move from that box. There's a story that I heard a long time ago. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a story that I heard a long time ago where a circus runner had this really wild elephant in his midst. And in order to train him, he had a really tight rope around one of his legs tied to an iron fence. And eventually the elephant discovered, I can't move. I can only go so far. And he kept the rope tied on his leg long enough to where the elephant got used to that limited movement. And when he took off the rope, he didn't have to worry about the elephant going anywhere, because he trained the elephant to know you can only go so far. And in many ways, in our culture, we've trained ourselves and each other that you can only go so far, that teachers only make this much, that women make less than men, that, and these assumptions, whether we like it or not, systemically, we have it as though there's very little we could do to change that. And I can change my individual journey, but perhaps not the consciousness itself, right? So the first one is how you make money. The second pillar is how you manage money. Now, here is where you have a lot of grist for the mill, because sometimes some of you may go through the make money pillar and like, no, I've transcended this and I make a lot of money. Okay, but how do you manage it? How do you manage this money? Is it burying a hole in your pocket and you're like, I gotta get rid of this, I gotta spend it, I gotta give it to somebody because this is a lot, right? And some of us have transcended the expectations of our families of origins, or have moved beyond a particular expectation. And then you got people in your ear, let me hold $20. I got this, I know you're a business coach, I got this plan, I need you to just help me out. And in 2 weeks, I can turn it around and give you 2 million. That's not how money works, sir. But if you say something like that, then you sound like a hater. How do you manage expectations? How do you manage your stewardship of your money? What you make, what you bring in, and then how do you distribute it so that you can meet your financial commitments, meet your goals. Some of you have goals, whether it's vacations or retirement or saving for college for your children or buying a house for your family or setting up some legacy benchmarks for yourself and for your loved ones, etc. And you have this resource. How do you amplify that resource? By the way that you manage it. Okay. The third one, segue, very nice segue to that legacy conversation, is multiply your money. So you make money, you manage your money, you multiply your money. And multiplying your money, this is a particularly interesting pillar to discuss for me as a business coach, as a leadership coach, because many times in entrepreneur circles, we're very used to, you put in a certain service or certain hours or certain IP, intellectual property, and you get out money. But multiplying it is such that you don't have to do this trading time for dollars thing, right? So one of the things that I always coach my clients on is when you make money, just like if you were in corporate America and they have 401ks and they have the IRA and they have a savings account and then health savings account, blah, 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 you do this for yourself as well and put it in an investment account that has a greater rate of return than inflation and savings accounts, et cetera, so that when there is a dip in the work that you do directly, whether it's speaking engagements with, when COVID started, people who were public speakers, they couldn't go anywhere. You had to pivot and do Zoom virtual events or you didn't have to make money at all. But if you have that investment account in there, then that can grow and meet your financial commitments and goals without you having to interface with clients or do the labor thing that you trade time for dollars for. So that's the part of, and you can tell, right, that I'm just giving you the eagle's eye view of it, right? Because we have limited time. And then the fourth pillar, so we have make money, manage your money, multiply your money, and then the fourth and final one is minister with your money. Minister with your money. And what does that mean? There are some causes that are near and dear to your heart. And at the very least, one of the things that we do when we minister with our money is donations, right? We donate to causes that we love, we contribute and we tithe and we give of our money to things that are near and dear to us, whether it's a fundraiser or an organization that's a regular, contribution relationship that you may have with them, et cetera. But I want you to ask yourself, with the gifts that I have, the gifts that I have been entrusted with, and my ability to turn that gift, amplify that gift into something that I can leave in the world after I'm gone, am I being a good steward of the gifts that I've been entrusted with? Because here's the thing. Everybody, every single human being, all 7-8 billion of us on this planet are gifted at something. But I want to redefine gift. It's not something that you are gifted with. It's something that you are entrusted with by the divine. This gift is not for you. This gift is for the world, and you are its vehicle. And so when you can express your gift, there is a quote in the Bible that says, a man's gift will make room for him and bring him to the presence of great men. Now, translated, you know that I have a PhD in comparative religion. So one of the things that we did was study the original language in which some of these scriptures were written. And can I just tell you that that's a mistranslation? It's not that your gift brings you in the presence of great men. It's that your gift empowers greatness in others. It's that your gift creates greatness or evokes the greatness in others. It's kind of like that Marianne Williamson quote that says that when I'm in my gift, I create permission for others to do the same. And when others are in their gift, they empower and inspire me to do the same, right? And this is what's possible when you operate out of those pillars in a way that you are directing the way you move your money towards your spiritual maturity. One of the things that you may have heard me say in the past is all that we are ever doing is managing our own orientation. And what I mean by that is that you are 100% committed. You have all the commitment you need. You have all the discipline you need. You have all the concentration, all the focus, all the resources that you need. The question is, what are you concentrated on? What are you disciplined about? And if you don't know how to answer that question, just look at your results. This morning, I was committed to sleeping. How do I know? Because it was this much time between the time I woke up and the daily huddle. That's my result, right? And so when you can see your results in your money, then you can create awareness for yourself about where have you been standing. And then out of that awareness, you can make an informed decision about whether you want to shift your orientation. Like maybe I was just committed to survival. And now I want to be committed to prosperity. Maybe I was just committed to pleasing honoring my family commitments. And now I want to redefine my family, that is not just people that I'm related to by blood, but people that I am related to by affinity and by commitments to the world. That people who are interested in excellence and committed to excellence are also part of my world family. There's a family you came from and there's a family you came through, right? There's a family you came through, your biological family, and then there's a family you came to, which is the one you created through your friendships, through your commitments in the world, through affinity and commonalities and so forth. And so when you can see your commitments and your legacy and the impact in the world through the prism of your financial movements, then now money isn't this thing that you have to avoid and just pay in taxes once a year and get it out of my way because I'm uncomfortable about it. But now you can actually get curious. And now it can just be kind of like another language that you learn. And at first, as with every language that we learn, it might be awkward. You might mispronounce some things. You might get some things wrong. It's like, ooh, that's not how that's supposed to go. But you learn by practice, not by avoidance. Yeah. So 4 pillars: how you make your money, how you manage your money, how you multiply your money, and how you minister with your money are some of the ways in which you can really exercise your wealth as a vehicle for your spiritual maturity. I'm going to open it up to have some conversations with you, questions, comments, aha moments. Stacy says, I'm convicted. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Who's got something that they want to share into the conversation?
Really quickly, I will. I love this. I had to write this down. I love these 4 pillars. I was thinking about intellectual properties as talents as well. I love the parable of talents, right? I love it. It's just great wisdom. But I think about talents as our gifts and abilities as well, right? And then those make money for us. Those will inspire greatness in us, but it will also be the thing that we can pass down to our children and our children's children. And there's a great biblical quote that says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." Right? I like to think about, well, if that's a good man, then what does a great or an amazing or a spectacular man do? And how do we build this generational wealth that lasts for, as the dynasties, right? 1,000 generations, right? That was always the goal, right? So I think our intellectual properties are those talents that we can do those things with. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. In fact, I don't know if you know my story, but part of what created my entrepreneur journey was my ability to translate my intellectual property. I was a stockbroker and a financial planner inside of a financial services company. I can tell you the name later, but inside of it, they were sending me all over the place to go teach other salespeople and other associates how to attract and engage and retain their high net worth clients. And then come performance review, they were like, we didn't hire you for this. They were gonna fire me, Stacey. And thank goodness that they said that they wanted to keep my intellectual property. I did not sign an intellectual property agreement. So now that became a negotiation conversation. And because they wanted to keep that, I negotiated for them to hire me to end the employment, but then hire me as a consultant so I can continue teaching their folks. And then that intellectual property became something that I licensed to them and opened up the door for a 10-year relationship with that financial services company. Paid a lot of bills when there were no clients, because I was in the middle of 2001 and 9/11 and people weren't hiring. And I was like, ooh, but I got my licensing checks coming in. Thank you, Father. So absolutely, intellectual property can be, a boon that you did not know that you were sitting on. Giovanni, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Really enjoy the 5 stages, the inquiry of the 5 stages. And also one of the things that I maybe wanted to say a little bit more about is the, I just felt it was deeper than I expected it to be, that discovering whatever my talents are and allowing myself to go deep in those, and actually gives permission to others to go deep in theirs.
Yeah.
And sharing them. And what I have been, I suppose, struggling in my life journey is to discover that thing which it's easier for me to go deep on, my, if you will, my talent, if you will. There is this challenge of discovering it. And then while in some degree I feel I found it, then there's this shame to have it be out there. This kind of natural shame, like, well, is it good enough so that other people see it anyway? And so what I'm hearing in this conversation is that that whole thing, that whole struggle, it's got to be public so that other people can discover their own thing. It's what I was kind of hearing.
Okay. Yeah, one of the, it's such a highly personal decision, the degree of publicness that you allow in your own process. However, what I will say is that one of the things that I've learned in community is, one, that we're not alone. 2, that it's okay to be messy, to not have all the answers. It kind of takes away the shame of it. And 3, that I can find support in places where, had I not opened my big mouth, I wouldn't have known that this was available to me. So, there are a lot of bonuses that I don't avail myself of if I let my image and my unwillingness to be embarrassed or feel shame about something, if that becomes the priority, then there's a lot of benefits that I don't have access to. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes. One more.
Can I do a follow-up?
Yes.
When I witness someone in their zone or in their art, in that thing that there's their talent, right? And when you said allow yourself to be messy, when I witness someone who's in their thing, the thing they love about, and witnessing being messy is so inspiring.
Yes.
Because they're actually really they're looking in a different way. They're actually in that inquiry of that thing they love. And as they're being messy, it's like, yes, you're not like, I want to say you're right, but yes, you're right. Like, it inspires me to go discover my own messiness. Like, I want to be in my mess. Yeah, that's what I'm discovering in here.
Yes. It's like going into the kitchen when the chef is really in it and you have no idea what they're doing, and it looks like it's all everywhere. And before you know it, it's like, ta-da! It's this amazing dish, and you're like, this out of that? Wow! And that process is it's an amazing thing to watch. So
or what they learn from it is capturing what they learn, even if it doesn't come like a masterpiece. Is wow that you get all of that.
Yes.
Sorry, I think Tara had her microphone off.
I did. And then I saw that Lizette put up a question, which I would love.
And it was an amazing question. How do I let go of my assumptions? Because sometimes I notice that I have them, but I still act the same way. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Welcome to the human condition. Right? So here's a couple of things that I always suggest. Not to say that this is a comprehensive answer, but something for you to consider. What do I get out of staying in this position? Now, that is not a rhetorical question, and there isn't a right answer. Because sometimes we say, how's that working for you? Well, it's not working. Yes, it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it, right? And so you want to ask yourself, what do I get? What's the payoff for still doing it this way? And sometimes you have to sit in the uncomfortable silence until something comes up that you don't want to look at. Let me give you an example, because I did this exercise for myself. Monikah, what is the payoff that you're getting out of creating financial turbulence every time you make a lot of money? And the answer that came to me was, well, I can stay safe because none of my friends are making this much money. And if I make this much money, they won't love me because I'll be too much unlike them. That made me cry when I found it. I was like, I'm doing that because of that, right? Another one that I discovered was, my parents are immigrants. And in our country, in many Caribbean and Latin American countries, if you make too much money, you can get kidnapped, you can get raped, you can disappear off the face of the earth. You don't flaunt your wealth. It's better to have money than to show money. And so showing money felt dangerous to me on a very visceral, unconscious level. And when I came up with that, I was like, oh, you have to rearrange some of the assumptions out of which you live your life. That's why I say check yourself before you wreck yourself, and it sounds cute and funny, but it can literally save your life and create the life of your design. And then there's some exercises that you can do, Lisa, like, there's EFT and affirmations and journaling and repaving and pre-paving. We've talked about all of those, so that you can go to the emotional root of your assumption and extract that root and plant something else. So where I uncovered that assumption and I saw the emotional root was fear, I can then plant the emotional sense or experience of safety. So the next time I come across that circumstance, instead of feeling fear and then just kind of like going like this, it's like, I know this thing, why am I acting like this? Well, now it's conscious and now I can make a different decision. But when it's still unconscious, I don't have access to choices. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Tara, you had one?
Not so much a question, really. I was just going to share what was popping into my head and a quick example of how timely this was, and to say thank you. I was thinking about what you said about making money and how much we charge. And then I tie that into how we minister our money. And you said something that I have like a big star around, and this is my paraphrase: when you operate in your gifts, you bring forth the gifts in others. And I spoke to a lady a few days ago. She has hired me to give a keynote to her entire school district. And she kind of warned me, these are very conservative people. And she was made it very clear about how conservative they were. And she told me the goals and the language and all their branding. And I infused in a couple times the word joy, because that's just so much of what I want to help people learn to seize in the face of no matter what. And I was nervous about doing that because I thought they would be like, woo, that's woo woo. And we don't want to talk about joy. We need. And then the number one thing she liked about my entire outline and proposal was that I talked about joy. And I think, here I go again. Same old Tara, like holding back my true self. And really, I just wanted to thank you because it was just so poignant to me to remind myself to operate in my gifts and believe in what could happen. So it was a big thing.
That's great. That's awesome. Yes. And we all need a lot more joy in our lives. That's awesome. Ronald, quickly. Yes.
Yes, quickly. This is I couldn't stop thinking that I need to say something when I heard Tara too. You know, I woke up this morning with thinking about Ronald in three ways: the business, the breadwinner, and the artist. Then I'm saying, okay, so what's stopping all this to function at the same time? It's only me. And then I heard you talking about the ministering your money. And I was like, okay, so out of my art, I can really come up with the way to let others see themselves. And you know, it's all coming, see, from the time I step out of my bed and this is start, you know, boiling in my head, and then here, you know, good enough, the daily huddle being the good habit that it is, Andrea, you know, the good habit that it is. And then I'll look at it, I say, wait a minute, how can the world that you guys talking about exactly what I wake up with this morning, and then creating the shape of what I am thinking, what I wake up thinking, and really here it is in conversation right here. So all it takes is me to step up and make the move and really look and, you know, who I need to tap into to make it happen that way.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you for presencing that. You know, in that
Yeah.
program, Men, Money, and Mastery, that's one of the things that we talk about. There's this compulsion in this society to have men have a relationship with money that's very different than women's relationship to money in terms of being a provider and being like the bottom line. And if you don't do it, ain't nobody doing it, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the psychological burden and emotional weight that presents on human beings that just happen to have a penis between their legs. And so when we can talk about how we're socializing people, it's like, if you ain't doing it, it ain't getting done, and what that means. Because what if you're an artist? What if you're an entrepreneur? What if you're not meant to be the bottom line? What if, you know what I mean? Some people just want to be themselves. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that an artist isn't supposed to be financially independent or financially prosperous, etc. But that you don't have to be, sometimes flies against the culture of like, no, everybody's supposed to be rich. And if you're rich, you do something wrong, you know? So thank you for presenting that as well. I love it. Ronald, for the win. Stacey's telling all my business. I told you I was going to find your buttons and press them today. Didn't I tell you that? I said that at the beginning, didn't I?
By the way, if it takes you that quick time to be the way you look, to be in the daily huddle this morning, you're looking cute.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. Stacey, we can talk about this offline because you can tell that I can run my mouth on this, right? This is part and parcel of what I do. So I want you to remember, love always, laugh out loud, give of yourself, give freely, give ostentatiously, give wastefully. You are not diminished by your giving. Eat more plant-based, sleep at least 7 hours, stress less. Stress less, man. And shake and move your what is it? Shake and move your tail feather, right? Twerk. We already discussed this. This is a twerking family here in the Daily Huddle. And of course, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Giovanni's favorite. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. See you next time.
Brilliant as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was so awesome.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow. Ciao.